Hello. Hi. Okay, wow, I think I actually managed to kind of master this week where I went live. Okay, just reset. It does that every week and it surprises me. Okay, I'll stop being surprised maybe next week. Hello. Good morning. And I just posted, I know it was kind of last minute. Um, I find myself every week like waiting, just like tapping my foot and waiting to go live. And so I think what I'm going to do, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it at 10. I can't seem to get this in the right spot. Okay, I think I'll do that. Okay, that works. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do 10 or 11. I don't know if 10's too early for a Sunday. I know I wake up at like 5 every day. My body's like, good morning. I don't know. This is how I am. So 10 is like the afternoon. And then when I do the live at 12:30, I'm like starving. Like I just can't wait to get off and eat. So I've decided that I'm going to change the time. I don't always have a lot of people showing up live. So I figured that it wouldn't be much of a big deal anyway. The replays is usually where it gets watched or on YouTube when I post them on YouTube. So I think that it'll be just fine if I do it at 10 or 11. But what I would like to do is make it like a regular time so people just knew that this is when I was going to be there. So I I'm going to try to do that. So I broke my finger. So I have this little funny looking little casty thing on there. That's a whole story. I'm not even sure if I should tell it right now because just getting really irritated with our healthcare system. That's a story for another day, I think, because it's a little bit negative, and I don't want to be negative right now. So today we're going to be talking about mindful eating, and it's going to be a three-part series. Now, I did this series for, I know a lot of you know I do recordings for Aura, so I do meditations and recordings for Aura. Um, I'll have to post the link on here so you can get a free 30-day trial if you want to try it out. It's such an awesome service because you don't just get meditations. There's health coaches and life coaches on there, and um, all different types of people I get. It's just endless, like coaches from all over the world. There's so many interesting modalities. There's something for everybody on there. And, it's just like any other kind of meditation app, whereas you sign up and you pay either a yearly fee or a monthly fee, and you get access to all this information. And that you could actually do one-on-one coaching on there. They have message-based coaching, which is kind of just like text-based coaching. And then you could also do live coaching on there. So it's a really cool app, and I love doing work for them. So I create these meditations and recordings on there. And I made it a four-part series on there because a lot of times, the people that are listening to it aren't clients, aren't people that you really have access to. So I really wanted to like super duper simplify it because I really can't get into like a conversation. So I did a four-part series, but on here I'm going to do a three-part series, and then I'm going to turn it into a little mini workshop that I'll be selling on my website, and it's going to be very inexpensive. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, but I want it to be very easily accessible to most people. It's a really great place to start if you're trying to maybe get healthy, feel better, increase your energy, reduce stress and anxiety. If you're like on a diet, you want to lose some weight. So mindful eating is really helpful, and it's super easy, but super simple, but not easy. Like it's very, I would call it almost like a little kind of a tedious new habit that you have to learn. But once you get like the hang of it, then it gets easy. Once you learn how to tune into yourself and learn about your body, it gets super easy. Once you learn about the scientific backing to it, it also becomes more easily to grasp. And so I'm going to try to give you that in this little series here. So today, what we're going to cover, I have my notes here, is only eating when you're hungry and not overfilling. So like I said, all these things are going to sound like super duper simple, but it's not what we do. And we do a lot of the things we do out of habits. So when you're creating a new habit, it takes a lot of repetitive work to kind of get it to anchor into your system. And I want you to keep that in mind. But this is a very powerful tool if you want to do any of those things that I mentioned earlier. I can't really stress this enough. It's also very powerful if you have trouble with digestion. So, a lot of the things that mindful eating are connected to are your digestion. And, it makes a lot of sense when you hear it, but you don't think of it while it's happening. So, the first point of contact and the first part of your digestive system is your mouth. And so it's your chewing and your saliva. And so if you think about things that way, you could really start to learn about why you might have some digestive upset. It's not going to solve all your problems, but this can help with gas and bloating and indigestion. It can help with a lot of things. It could also help you absorb nutrients better once you really make this a habit in your life, because the more you chew your food, the easier it is going to be to digest, the easier it is going to be for your body to absorb these nutrients into your body. Okay? All right, so to get started, so everyday eating habits that you could make that could help with this. Eating more slowly. Okay, so a lot of us eat really fast. And like I said, these are things that you know already. It's like you shouldn't eat fast. You should eat slower. And there are different ways that you could be mindful of this. So the first way is to um, really focus on the meal. Okay, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And and I know a lot of people are gonna tell me they don't have time for this, and so I will talk about time towards the end of this talk, but it's about making time. So self care. This is the Self Care Sunday group. And it's about really calling yourself out and making the time to do this for yourself. You want to feel better. You want to lose weight. You want to have more energy. You want to be healthier. You want to improve your health. Like if you have things like high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, all these different things. You want to improve your digestion. You want to have less bloating, less gas. You want to have less like stomach problems. Then make the time, because if you don't make the time, you're going to feel like shit. And it's better to like be able to resolve these things with with your own power, with your own knowledge, and with your own habits than to have to take some kind of medication that has horrible side effects. Medication definitely has its place to help people that are really sick, but my philosophy is, what can I do to avoid medication? Because medication has all these different side effects. And most of medications, most of the pharmaceutical are based on come from and are based on some very natural substances, and they're just changed and manipulated, and that's why they don't work as well with our body as these natural things. So, like I said, focus on the meal. So what does that mean? That means so when you're going to sit down for breakfast, or you're going to have breakfast, a lot of people won't sit down for breakfast. Sometimes people like eat in their car while they're driving to work, or eat while they're walking around the house, or drink a smoothie while they're walking around. Now, the only time I think that this might be okay is if it's turned into this very positive ritual. I'm going to go for a walk with my dog in the morning. I'm going to bring my smoothie with me. Or when I get in my car, I have a long commute, so I make my smoothie, I put on a podcast or a book, and I drink my smoothie while I go to work, and it's just like this wonderful experience. So can you see the difference in that as eating a piece of toast over your sink while your kids are screaming behind you? Um, Making this a habit for your whole family, teaching your kids this is just really great. If they're teenagers, they're totally going to rebel against it, but you could just keep doing it and be a model. One of the things I learned about kids, and all mine are grown now, is that they're watching you and they're listening, and they learn from you, whether they admit it or not, and they end up doing these things. I watch my kids now, and they've learned from me, and they do these things. So that's the mindset I would have when you're doing this for yourself. You're not just bettering yourself, you're bettering the people around you. You're helping them also. So even better is if you could take 5-10 minutes to just like make a space for yourself. Like, so I have like this little island I sit at. I have a very small apartment I live in, and I love it. But I have like this little island, and that's where I sit to eat. And I make it nice. I have like fabric napkins, and I have a little candle there. And sometimes I'll watch like a YouTube video if I'm by myself. I like to watch something, like sometimes I'll listen to a podcast or whatever it is. Um, but that's what I do. So I make it look nice. I make the environment look nice in the summer. I pick flowers and I have flowers there. What that does is it puts your body in a state of relaxation, and it's also forming this like anchor for the habit. So your body's getting ready. Your body recognizes this the more you do it as, oh, we're going to eat now and it's time I could go into rest and digest instead of fight or flight and be like tense. And I'll talk more about that. And so you start this little ritual, even if you just do it for one meal a day. And then maybe when you're first starting out, do it for one meal a week. So every Sunday at dinner time, make it like this beautiful whole like, event, make a really nice dinner, use the nice dishes. I mean, what are you saving them for anyway, right? I use china every day. That's my everyday dishes. Um, so like just making a nice environment for yourself and focus on eating slowly while you're in this nice environment. So like say you're having some oatmeal for breakfast and focus on like really tasting the oatmeal in between my bites, not how fast you can eat it, how this is nourishing your body, and focus on like putting the spoon down in between each bite. Oatmeal's not really a good example because you don't have to really chew it that much. Say I go back to the toast. So toast, chewing it completely. This is just like a big deal, and I'll talk more about this in the whole series. I'll be coming back to this. And another thing that you can be mindful of if you're trying to like lose weight is to use smaller vessels, meaning use smaller plates. So something that has happened in the past, I don't know, since the 70s is our portion size have increased. I don't know if I have the exact number. How much our portion shot. I don't remember where it is. 50, let's see. Let's see if it says. Oh, here it is. Okay. Double. Since the 70s, our portion sizes have doubled, which makes sense. And let me tell you, I am so guilty of this. I love my food, and when it tastes good, I just want more. And I'm not so bad about eating fast anymore. I actually eat a lot slower than other people, but I still think I eat fast, which means a lot of people eat super duper fast. So anyway, so using smaller vessels, smaller plates. I'm going to use the word plates because vessels sounds weird, but using smaller plates. So like I wish I remembered to bring an example of this because my dishes, like my everyday dishes, I'm getting all these like text messages. Um, um, are gigantic. So they're like this big, and then the lunch plates or cake plates or whatever you want to call them, they're like regular size. So that's what I use as a regular plate. Or sometimes I just use a bowl depending on what I'm going to be eating. So this makes a big difference. And another thing I always remind myself of is like portions of each thing on your plate. So if you have a protein and then you have a vegetable, a portion size is usually like the size of your hand. And so I try to keep this in mind when I'm eating certain things that are bad. When it comes to vegetables, I eat as much as I want. But like the protein part of like, so if I'm having tofu or beans or something like that, I try to remember the size of my hand is a good serving. And then I try not to eat a lot of like the starches, or I don't, try not to eat a lot of bread. So like these are the things that I'm mindful of. Now another thing that I want you to keep in mind is how you feel after you eat. Okay? So when you eat certain things, a lot of us aren't very mindful of this because we're eating so fast and we're in this like rush and we're in this state of like fight or flight. Okay? So the first point I want to make is if you're in this state of rush and panic and stress, your digestive system is shut down. It's like not happening. Okay, so you're not going to easily digest. You're going to get gassy. You're going to get bloaty. You're also not going to absorb the nutrients correctly. Okay, so getting yourself out of this state of fight or flight and into, that's why they call it, your parasympathetic nervous system, getting into rest and digest is what they call it, because this is when you can digest your food best. Okay, so getting yourself into that state beforehand and into a relaxed state is very important. And then I forgot where I was going with that. That's so funny. I was talking about using smaller plates. I can't remember where I was going with that. So anyway, getting yourself in this good state, setting like a nice um, place where you're going to eat and having it be like an event. It doesn't have to be like an hour long. Although, if you think about what they do in Italy every afternoon, I'm thinking, this is my kind of place. You know, they close everything for 2 hours and they have lunch and they go home and they eat with their family and they drink wine, whatever. Um, we could dream, right? So, these are the different things that we can do in order to help us absorb our nutrients better, help us digest our food better, help us lose weight if we wanted to, help us be more aware. Oh, I was talking about how the food makes you feel. So, help us be more aware of how the food makes us feel. Okay, so after we eat this, usually we're in such a big rush, we're not really paying attention. And so, you might eat, let's say, for instance, you eat, um, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that would upset someone's stomach. Well, let's say bread, gluten. A lot of people are very sensitive to gluten or dairy, okay? So I don't eat dairy because I eat primarily a vegan diet. But a lot of people do not digest dairy and gluten well. And so you might not notice this right away, but if you start being more mindful about your eating and you slow down and get into that rest and digest and you pay attention, and you can even take like a little, make a little like food diary. So, like, today I had this type of bread, and the type of bread does matter. Like, because you might not be able to eat like white bread, but if you eat sourdough bread, which is easier to digest, then maybe I can eat sourdough bread instead. Maybe I should just stop eating white bread. Or maybe wheat bread bothers you just as much because most wheat bread that you buy in the store is just as bad as white bread. It's not really a whole grain bread. So paying attention to those details. Oh, I had yogurt for lunch with strawberries. I love strawberries, but after that I was really gassy and my stomach was upset and I was really bloated. Okay, so that's like, to me, it's like that's probably the dairy. It probably has nothing to do with the strawberries. So you just pay attention to how your body feels. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to cover today, um, I just want to make a note here. The last thing I want to cover today is something that's called Harry Hachi Boo, which is such a funny, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, but it's such a funny saying. Okay. And it's a Japanese saying. And what that means is eating until you're 80% full. Now, this is so hard for me because, like I said, I love food. And I'm constantly cooking all these really delicious vegan dishes from my program that I've been talking about a lot lately. So if you follow me on social media, especially Instagram, on Instagram, I'm at Tina Stinson Coach. So I post a lot of food and a lot of gardening things on there too. But I've been cooking a lot from my plant-based cooking made easy program because it's a part of my reset that I'm doing right now. So these recipes are like so delicious. And for instance, yesterday I made this chili and it was so good. It was really good. And I had one bowl and I was just like, I really want another bowl. Like normally I would eat that second bowl, but I'm being really mindful of it because I know I'm full. I know I don't need it. I am full. Like I could honestly say to myself, Tina, are you full? And I'd be like, yes, I'm full. And I was probably more than 80% full. But I still want another bowl. And the old me would be like, I would just take the other bowl. I'm not overweight, so, I would just eat it. But then I wouldn't feel good. Then I would have indigestion. When I eat too much, I get indigestion. That's like one of the first signs that I ate too much. So Harry Hushy-Boo is about checking in with yourself while you're eating. Okay. So firstly, I would say don't let yourself get crazy, wicked hungry. Okay. So it's like, plan on eating before you're gonna, and I know that's hard sometimes. I get in situations too where I'm not like that, but having a snack or just like eating a few nuts in between meals or an apple or whatever can really like stave off the hunger. so that when you're sitting down for the meal, you're not like, just like pigging out, So, which I totally do. So, checking in with yourself at the beginning, how hungry you are, and then eating until that hunger goes away. It's actually, I really encourage you to try this at least once this week, okay? At least once this week, sit down for a meal and only eat until the hunger goes away. Not until you finish your plate, not until you feel full or you feel a pressure, until the hunger goes away. Now, if you eat slow enough, your body and your mind and your hormones and everything have the time to tell you when you're full. But most of us just eat too fast. Okay? So if you start following the things that I just told you, okay, so I talked about eating more slowly, focusing on the food, creating the space, use smaller plates. I would say the smaller plate thing is really only necessary if you're trying to lose weight. If you're not trying to control any weight, then I wouldn't even do that. And then how your body feels, okay? So you're tuning into all these different things. That's automatically going to slow you down a little bit. Take the time to pay attention to what you're feeling as you're eating. So you take a bite, you put the fork down and you're chewing, you're focused on chewing because you know that your saliva is actually breaking down the food. This is the first line of digestion, is your saliva breaking down the food. Okay? And so you're chewing and your saliva is working and this and that, and you put your fork down and you're focusing on the environment. Maybe you're watching a TED Talk on YouTube, whatever you're doing. I don't know. Maybe you're having lunch with a friend or a family member. And if your kids are screaming in the background, you could put your headphones on and listen to a pod. You can put one headphone in and have one out so you hear if anybody like lost an arm or something, and so like you can kind of like veg out a little bit. Um, and see when the hunger pain stops. You know that feeling where you're just like hungry? Like to me, what it feels like to me is I feel like really empty, or I almost feel kind of like light. Like I could honestly say I feel 10 pounds lighter when I'm really hungry. And then as soon as I eat, I feel 10 pounds heavier. So um, when that feeling starts to go away, then stopping there. That's what your body needed, and you don't really need any more. You don't need to overstuff yourself. And you might find it's easier to digest the food. Okay. You might be like, if you're a person who has problems with gas and bloating and indigestion, you might find that all those things disappear. They might disappear. And just eating in a more relaxed state, getting out of that rush, the stress loop that you're in, and kind of relaxing and taking that time and making that time for yourself, that takes you into rest and digest. All these things put together might make you feel better enough so you can lose all of those symptoms. It might take a little bit of time, obviously. These habits take time. Like I said, they're simple habits, but they're a little tedious, you know, to get yourself to slow down when you have never been doing that, or you've been on high speed at 100%. And believe me, I know because I was there. I was there. I spent like 10 years there at, working myself to death till I would burn out, then burning out, and then going back again, working myself to death, burning out. I was in this loop until I had a stroke, right? So I know how hard it is to get out of that, that you feel like, oh, I got to get to work. Oh, I got to get the kids to school. Be conscious of your self-care enough to make the space for yourself to sit down and eat a decent breakfast, to sit down at lunch, take the space that you have. Now, I know a lot of people aren't in ideal work situations where they can't take a lunch. They may even be allowed to have a lunch, but it's frowned upon to take a lunch. And then when you do take a lunch, they're like, what are you doing? And I know this situation, so try to like create these boundaries slowly if you have the space to create the boundary. Now, if you don't have the space to create a boundary, and what I mean by that is you're allowed to have a lunch, but it's frowned upon. I don't know, just start out small. Go take a 10-minute walk outside, even if it's snowing out, and just take a few breaths. Remove yourself from that situation and put yourself into a more comfortable situation until you can maybe create that boundary and that space for yourself to have a 30-minute lunch. If you can't, you absolutely can't take a lunch. You're a nurse. You're running around like a mad woman. You're, I'm trying to think of some other jobs. You work for Amazon. That was a little joke, but not really. A waitress, waitresses, they don't even have time to pee sometimes. So, what I would suggest with this is to have snacks and um, to take little breathing moments. Okay, so um, take you have enough time. Anybody could do this because you can do this while you're standing waiting for some food or when you're in with a patient or something. You can take 3 or 4 really deep breaths and breathing into your diaphragm just to bring yourself into a state of relaxation. Maybe throw a few nuts in your mouth or something like that. I know there's people who don't have this space. If you can't do that for lunch, definitely make sure you do it for breakfast and dinner. Okay? If your body's used to skipping lunch, just do the breath work. Just do maybe once during your shift. Do breath work once. It'll make a difference. Um, and then make sure that you do it for dinner. Okay? And if you're exhausted for dinner and you're ordering takeout, make sure you make it like get a plate out, or even if you're eating from the container, sit at the table, light a candle, whatever. Use the fancy napkins, whatever. Just make it a little special. Treat yourself like the princess you fucking are, and everybody else will follow suit. Okay? That's what so that's mindful eating part 1. Okay, so your action steps: eat more slowly. So pay attention, take the time, be mindful about how fast you're eating, chew your food, take smaller bites. Okay, so take your fork. Don't like, I don't know if you're like me, so I do this. So you're eating some like a salad, and there's like chickpeas, tomatoes, greens, and olives in there. So this is me. I have to get each one of those things on each forkful. Like that's like in order to completely enjoy the salad, I need every part of that in my mouth. And so it ends up being like this huge spoonful of food, and I'm like, trying to chew it up. So don't do that. I have to be mindful of that. Focus on the food, make it an event, turn off the TV, turn off your phone, or maybe even put some music on. I didn't even talk about that. So if you're putting some music on, you can do that. That can really bring yourself into a new state. If you're on your phone or you have the TV on, be sure it's something motivational or positive, that it's not something that's going to bring stress to your life, or something funny. Okay? Um, if you're going to eat, just eat. Like, focus on the meal. Don't run around. Okay? Use small vessels. If you're trying to lose weight, be mindful of your portion sizes and your vessels that you're using. But very important. I mean, of course, it's important to eat healthy food, but we all have to have fun sometimes, okay? So we all have to eat. Like, I'm still going to eat. I'm still going to drink my Jack Daniels. I'm still going to have my wine. I'm still going to have a chocolate cupcake. Oh, I love chocolate, so I'm still going to have my chocolate. But I'm not going to, like, overeat it. I'm going to eat it like this. It's going to be a moment, okay? And then pay attention to how your body feels. And work on Harry Hatchy Boo, eating until you're 80% full. So those are all your action steps. Eat slowly, focus on the food, use smaller vessels. How does your body feel? Harry Hatchy Boo. Eat till you're 80% full. So those are your action steps for this week. I'm going to be back next week with Mindful Eating Part 2, and we're going to go into that. If you're interested in learning more about Harry Hatcha, maybe it's Harry Hatchaboo, I follow Blue Zones. I encourage all my clients to follow Blue Zones. So Blue Zones is very interesting because it was a study done by National Geographic, by Dan Butner. So you can follow Blue Zones on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Dan Butner, which I think is Beuttner, something like that. Anyway, they studied different places all over the world where people were living into their hundreds, but they were active, they were living, they were healthy in that, and they studied all the things that these communities had in common. So what I like about this study, as opposed to other food studies and all these other different studies, is that all these people live in different environments, they're different nationalities, they eat different foods, and I'm sorry, my nose is so itchy. I think I have like dog hair all stuck to my face. I was cuddling with Millie. So all these people, they eat different foods, they have different rituals, they eat different foods because they live in different regions. So like one is in Costa Rica, one is in Japan, one is in Italy, one is in Greece, there's one in the United States in California. So all these different communities, but they found these 8 things in common. And and one of them, Harry Hachibu, comes from the Japanese culture where you eat until you're 80% full. That was one of the things that they did. So go to bluezones.com and check it out. Sign up for their newsletter. It's great information. I love this study because it doesn't talk about, like, yes, I eat a plant-based diet. Yes, it's primarily vegan, but um, and a lot of these communities are plant-based mostly. Some of them eat meat, but the meat is more of a celebratory kind of a thing. Some of them eat fish, same thing. But another thing they do is they drink wine every day. A lot of them. I think like um, the Italians, was it? It might have been Costa Rica too. I'm not really sure. But it's so interesting. It's so interesting. But it also has a lot to do with community and having a life with purpose. And it's super interesting. And it's a really good focal point to learn from because it's studying all these different peoples and different communities. It's not a study just based on eating a certain food and sticking to that food. It's really based on a full circle of health, and that's what I love about it. So definitely look into that. Next week, we are going to be talking about getting in a good energy state before you eat, which I touched on a little bit, but we're going to go deep into that, how you can do that. Using your senses to enjoy your food more. And then the social aspects. Oh, we're going to talk about Italy more because I love what Italy does. If this was socially acceptable, actually, I'm getting to the point where I don't care if anything is socially acceptable. I'm just kind of like, fuck it. I'm going to pretend I'm in Italy. I'm going to have a big lunch every day and drink wine. But that's a whole nother life, I guess. So I hope that this was helpful to you. And I look forward to next week. On mindful eating part 2. And like I said, I'm going to make this a series, a 3-part series, and it's free on here right now. But I'm going to make this something that I sell on my website, and it's going to be pretty inexpensive because I want it to be accessible, like 20 something dollars, probably very, very accessible. And it's going to have a workbook and journaling prompts and stuff like that. And it's going to be like a slideshow, so it's going to be very a little more organized than just me coming live on here. So it'll be a really good resource for people. And if you know anybody who wants to enjoy this for free right now, because I'm just going to leave these up here, I'm not going to take them down at all. Just recommend the group to them. It's either the Empowered Woman or Self Care Sunday. So I always go live in both groups. So I really enjoyed being here today. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'll be glad to help you. In order to help the reach on my videos, if you could like them and comment on them, that would be great. Facebook is really hard to get reach on, especially at all. It's really hard to get reach at all. I feel like my private page is the only place where I get reach from. So it would be very helpful if you liked it and just made a little comment. If you liked it, make a comment for me. That would be really wonderful, and I would love that. And definitely recommend it to somebody who might be helpful for. Next month, for the whole month of May, I'm going to be offering my plant-based cooking made easy program for 50% off. Okay, starting May 1st. I will post it on here when the time comes. And it's 7 months worth of, actually, I think there's an extra 2 weeks in there because I started this program as a membership and then I stopped it and decided I just wanted to make it a purchase one kind of program and not a membership. I didn't want to keep doing it monthly. So it's like 7+ months worth of meal plans, prep schedules, shopping list, a little bit of nutrition education about plant-based nutrition. And I also include cookbooks. So I take all the recipes from that month, I think. Do I do it monthly? I don't know. I have a couple cookbooks in there with all the recipes in there. And then I also include batch cooking cookbooks, which are cook once and then you could freeze these are meals that freeze well, like chilies and soups, so that you always have a healthy, delicious plant-based meal in your freezer at all times. Okay, and so this is it's a really cool program. So if you're ever interested in eating a plant-based diet, it would be very helpful to you. It's not like a meal plan that you have to follow to the T in a very specific way. It's really about just making it easy for you to cook plant-based, because when you're cooking plant-based whole food, you're cooking, you're doing a lot of chopping, you're cooking, and that's one of the hardest things about it is, you go from eating processed foods where you just kind of put it in the oven and you're constantly feel like you're preparing food. So what this program does is it shows you how you can cook once and use the leftovers and freeze stuff, so you don't find yourself cooking continuously and chopping and doing dishes like you're always in the kitchen. So it's just a very helpful program to get you in a kind of a good loop of always having these healthy plant-based meals available to you. So anyway, done with my sales pitch. So you'll see that next month. I'll put it on um, both of these groups. I'll put it on here so that you can have the coupon, and the coupon will be good for the whole entire month. So you can share it with whoever you want. I don't care. It's going at the 50% off. It's just under like $100. So you're getting 7 months worth of meal plans for just under $100, which is phenomenal. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed today's live. A lot of people probably would say to me, "What does mindful eating have to do with self care?" And I hope that I kind of um, helped you see how much self care is involved with mindful eating, because you really have to focus on the way you feel and taking care of yourself and making the time to do it. Okay? Making the time for yourself, what so many of us have so much trouble doing, is making this time for ourselves and really loving ourselves. Once you learn how to take care of yourself and love yourself, it's reflected back at you. So if you want to feel loved and you want to have support and you want to feel all this stuff, then you have to treat yourself that way first. So mindful eating is definitely a really good practice to have if you want to practice deep level self-care. Okay, you guys have a great rest of your Sunday and a great week. I will see you next week for part 2. Bye.